All right, the time is here. It's time to talk about the best and the worst movies in the horror thriller genre that I watched in 2020. So, just right up front, like the whole argument of what is horror, I'm so sick of it. Like, if it's a pretty violent thriller, I'm counting it as horror. End of discussion. I'm tired of this, like, what is horror? And does this one count? Does this one count? And having this like deliberation with people and shit. I just had a friend who was going through this. He was asking like 20 people, like, well, why do you think it's horror? And should I put it on my list? Dude, if you think it's horror or if you want to put it on your list, put it on your fucking list. You don't got to explain yourself to nobody. Okay? So I'm done with it. You want to fucking fight me in the comments? That's not horror. Fuck off. Okay? Fuck off. Anyways, so this is my bottom 10, which we're going to start with first because we're going to get the shit out of the way. And then we're going to get to the creme de la creme of 2020. And now, this is an interesting year. And of course, you know, I got to really quickly state this was a really hard list to make, and that I rearranged everything about 50 times, and that I could interchange a ton of these in different places all over the place, and I'd feel just as good about it as I do right now. So yes, we all say that, but it's hard not to say it because it's so fucking true. I rearranged this list like 20 times, took movies on. I even made a last minute call, an exclusion and inclusion. And I just was like, right before I started recording, I was like, wait a minute, no, I got to take this one off. And this shit is hard, man. I don't like making lists, you guys know that. But this one I do enjoy just because it's kind of like letting you guys all know what I think is worth your time, you know, in 2021. If you want to catch up on 2020 films you missed, maybe some of these will appeal to you and you will have not have seen them. Hopefully I can bring you some ones you missed, or hopefully also you can be like, yes, I'm so glad he brought this one in here because I love this one. And of course there will be a few that you're like, what? Get the fuck out of here. That was terrible. How's this guy like that? That is everyone's list. You're rarely going to come across, in fact, you're almost never ever going to come across somebody who has a list who's exactly the same as yours or doesn't have a pick that you're like, really, that shouldn't be on here. Dude, we all have difference of opinions. So anyway, oh yeah, I'm rambling again. I'm not getting to the list fast enough. Fuck off. I'm just gonna keep telling my audience to fuck off until I have no subscribers left. That's the plan here. That's the plan of the channel, and that's why I'm doing so well, right? Okay, so let's get to the bottom 10. I'm not going to talk about these long because they're not worth my time, but I wanted to do it. When I was looking at my list, I did watch 150 horror movies in 2020. It rounded off at 150 on the nose as of tonight when I finished my last film from this year. Now, I will say that I went through my list and I was missing like a ton of movies from this year. So I went and I found them all, and I included probably 15 movies that for some reason didn't end up on my letterboxd, and I was really annoyed about it. So who knows? It might be 175 for all I fucking know. But as far as I'm aware, I watched 150. So we'll just stick with that. And when I was going through it, letterboxd, guys, you got to get it if you're going to keep a proper list. It's so helpful throughout the year. Every time I'd watch something, for the most part, obviously I forgot a few times, but you pop it on the list immediately. You add it to your little list, and you're good to go. So, all right. So, bottom 10, real quick. Let's rifle these off. Number 10, Don't Look Back. Holy shit, man, I won't. I will not look back at this movie ever again, I promise. Number 9, Do Not Reply. I will not reply. Okay, I'm done with that joke. But fuck, what a dreadful film. What a dreadful, god-awful film, as all of these are. Number 8, Starlight. Oh man, what a disappointment this was. I actually was kind of looking forward to this one because of who was in it and whatnot, but Wow, rough watch. Number 7 is a film that I took like 5 viewings to get through because I was just like, oh man, I gotta finish this thing. I put in 20 minutes. I'm gonna put in a little bit more. Maybe it'll get better. And that is Dinner Party. Fuck. This is definitely not The Invitation. Okay, if you want to watch a movie about a dinner party that's awesome, watch The Invitation. You want to watch a movie about a dinner party that makes you want to fucking jump off a cliff, watch Dinner Party. All right, number 6 is The Turning, with Mackenzie Davis and Finn Wolfhard. This movie should not suck, guys. This movie should not suck. But it really does, and it mostly sucks because of its insanely disjointed third act. Holy fuck, I did not know what was happening all of a sudden. Like, the movie was plodding along, and I was like, it's just kind of generic. And then the third act hits, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? What is going on? Like, what kind of rails did you go off on this one? I can't believe how bad that third act was. It was genuinely dreadful. All right, number 5, which is barely even a horror movie, but people were counting it as a horror movie, so fuck it. That is She Dies Tomorrow. I have friends that loved this movie, loved it. This was the most redundant, boring ass fucking movie I watched all year. Someone just telling someone they're gonna die, and then they become kind of fixated on this idea that they're gonna die tomorrow, and it just like passes from person to person, and every person's like, I'm gonna die tomorrow. Oh my fucking god, man. I wish I died yesterday, the day before I watched this, so I didn't have to watch it. Fuck, it was rough for me. Next one up, number 4, Lake of Death. Ooh, brutal watch. Number 3, this is a film that made it on a buddy of mine's top 10. I think it made it into his top 5 of 2020, if I remember correctly. Dude, I think it even made it into his top 3. Like, it was super fucking high, and I was like, what now? But this is what I was talking about earlier. When you make lists, people are gonna be like, that shouldn't be on your list. This is dog shit. We all have opinions. It's okay. That film is Murder, Death, Koreatown. Getting through this film was a chore, to say the fucking least. I felt like nothing ever happened. And I rarely ever say that. And I felt like the lead actor who's narrating and filming this whole faux documentary thing is one of the most whiny, incessant people that I've ever had to fucking sit through in my life. It was unbearable. Incessant wasn't the word I was going for there, but I think you know what I was going for. It doesn't matter. Just a dreadful character. Next up, this one is barely horror, but I have to include it on the list because of how fucking atrocious this film was. Like, shockingly bad, even for this actor, and that's Adam Sandler's Huby Halloween. I sat down with my kids to watch this. It's like a family horror film. Oh my god. I don't know, Adam Sandler, man. It's weird that he'll make uncut gems and then follow it up basically with Huby Halloween. It's like, how do you go from that to this? How do you do it? Anyways, a train wreck. A horrible film with probably the most insufferable, that's I think the word I was going to go with earlier. Yeah. Insufferable character on screen in 2020. I mean, Adam Sandler has had some annoying ass characters, Jack and Jill, whatever. This is his worst. This is his worst that I've ever seen. Unfucking believable bad. And number 1, the worst film that I saw in 2020, and that is Brahms, The Boy 2. This film was shockingly awful to me. I saw this in theaters because I literally had nothing else to do that day, and I had free passes, because I had like AMC, A-list, and I had, I could see 3 movies a week, and I was just like, fuck it. The first one was okay. Maybe this one will be better. Maybe this one will, add something to it. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Holy shit, was I not pleasantly surprised. A truly dreadful film. Like, generic, but it's like every single trope imaginable and so many directions that it shouldn't have taken, and all done in the poorest imaginable way. I thought this, for the budget, for the fact that this made theaters, everything, I factor all that in, the worst film of 2020 for me that I saw. Unbelievable. A fucking zero. A zero for me. I hated every second of it. Every fucking second of this movie. Anyway, all right. Here we go, guys. I'll timestamp this. I just got to, so people won't cry too much. All right. Let's get into it. I did the top 25 because I just couldn't keep it to 20. I will tell you this. I had like 55 films on Letterboxd that I had rated 4 stars and above. 4 out of 5 stars and above. So this was a very interesting year. We got almost 0 studio releases. Almost 0. We were supposed to get Halloween Ends. We were supposed to get Antlers. We were supposed to get my most anticipated horror film of the year, Saint Maud. We were supposed to get Candyman. We were supposed to get a whole onslaught of films that would absolutely, more than likely, make this list. I mean, I would be shocked if Saint Maud wasn't super high on this list. Like even number 1. I don't know. For some reason, I am convinced that movie is going to be fucking phenomenal. But who knows what else would have ended up on this list. Hopefully, Halloween Kills would have ended up on this list. Did I say Halloween Kills? Or did I say something else? I said Halloween something. But Halloween Kills. I want to love another Halloween movie. So please, please. Antlers would probably end up on this as well. But, they didn't come out. So I know a lot of people are like, well, I mean, there was like nothing to watch. Really? Because I watched 150 movies. And at least 50 plus of them I greatly enjoyed. Like 4 stars and above. Every single film on this fucking list is 4 stars and above. For me, out of 5. So, yeah. And 25 plus, 30 plus fucking films that were 4 stars and above got left off of this list. I'm going to give a quick honorable mention because it was the one that got bumped last second. I wanted to include it on the list, but because it got bumped, I still got to mention it. The reason it was at its last spot was because the acting is awful, dreadful. So that, really hurt the film. That said, I still thought the film was creepy as shit, regardless of the acting. And that was The Fear Footage 2, The Curse of the Tape. I love this movie, despite how dreadful the acting is. The first film is fine. This one is great. I loved it. Seriously, I can't wait for Fear Footage 3 that was just announced. Hopefully he brings it. Maybe he can hire better actors. If he got great actors into this, if the acting in this was solid, this would be in probably my top 5, top 10. I loved it so much. But fuck, the acting was rough. Like, some of the worst of the year, if not the worst. It's that bad. But the way every scare is set up, everything is so tense and so freaky that the acting just like barely bothered me. But it's so bad I couldn't put it any higher. I just couldn't. I didn't even get it on the list, but there you go. All right, so the real number 25 now is The Pool. Yes, the killer croc, alligator, whatever the hell it is, that falls into the pool with this guy. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but yeah, this guy's, it's man versus nature, and it's just like one of those everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong kinds of movies, and I love that kind of shit. Whether it's Crawl or Burning Bright or any of these like creature features where everything that can go wrong goes wrong. I am a big fan of those. There's just something I really enjoy about them. All right, so next up will be number 24, and that is a film that would have been higher had it not been 50 minutes long. It's barely even a film. It was hard to even put it on the list because of how short it was. But I did really enjoy the fuck out of it. And maybe with an extra 30 minutes, this would be much higher. And that is Host, Shudder's Host. The found footage laptop horror that was filmed completely in quarantine. And that alone is an impressive feat, to say the least. So, Host, really cool film on Shudder. Go check it out. All right, number 22, probably the newest addition to the list, and this is a film I watched like 2 or 3 days ago. 3 days ago, and that is a film called Extracurricular. This was a total surprise. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. I threw it on with like 10 other films, just watching back to back, and I thought this one was really special. It follows 4 killers who are planning, they're like in high school, they're planning their next murder. There's a lot of tension between the killers. They're not people that really should be hanging out together, but they're trying to plan the perfect murder. There's a lot of nods to other films that they bring up themselves. And it's played very serious, very straight. And I think everyone is very good in it. And there's a lot of twists and turns. And it's a total sleeper of 2020. So it's one to not be missed for sure. And obviously, I think none of these should be missed. But I just think this is one that no one is really talking about. And it's a damn shame because it's a really, really cool film. All right. Next up is this is 23. Number 22, and that is The New Mutants. Yep, I put that on here. Okay, it is absolutely 100% straightforward a horror movie set in the X-Men universe. I don't know what everyone's issue with this movie is. We got the amazingly wonderful, gorgeous Anya Taylor-Joy, who just can do no wrong, and The Queen's Gambit might be the best damn thing of 2020. So if you haven't seen that, please watch it. It's not horror, but she's phenomenal in it. She's phenomenal in fucking everything she's in. We got Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones. We got a great cast here. I had a great time with this. I really did. I thought the creature effects were rad. I thought the story of containing this inside a mental hospital was great. I really liked the characters. I liked how everything played out. I liked the CGI on the bear and the monsters and the ending and all of it. I really enjoyed the shit out of this one. So I had to put it on here because I was a big fan of it. And it, as I said, it is absolutely, undeniably a horror film. All right, next up we have number 21. And that is the follow-up to The Battery, After Midnight. Now, the horror in this movie is extremely light, but it does come at the end in the form of a monster, in a monster movie. But first and foremost, it's a breakup movie. It's a sad sack sitting around the house dealing with a breakup while he's also trying to fend off a monster that no one believes exists. And of course it's metaphorical and there's symbolisms and this and that. But man, I just really attached myself to this guy, and it's kind of shown back to back with, like, it shows us them kind of like moving into the house and how in love they were, and then they kind of juxtapose that against like their breakup and where he's at mentally with it now, and his drinking and dealing with it and thinking back about all these great times. So it's just like showing, it's almost like a marriage story where they show like how they met and how wonderful their relationship was, and then it kind of shows where they are now and just kind of the total like different sides of the equation of like when you're in love versus when you're broken up, and just like there he sings this song at the end, and then there's an unexpected moment, and I just really enjoyed it. This guy, I dig him in everything that he's been in and everything he's made so far. So After Midnight, super fun film. All right, next up, number 20, a film that I saw, one of the first films of 2020 I saw, and this was shockingly good, because I went into this having known that it was in this kind of production hell. It had been filmed years ago, pushed forever, and that usually spells disaster for films. This was PG-13. It starred an actress that a lot of people hate. And I was just like, oh man, this is probably going to be rough. And of course, that movie is Underwater. But holy shit, this might be the best paced film of the entire fucking year. It is pure fucking chaos from beginning to end. You get her brushing her teeth in her underwear, which is not a complaint by any means. And then boom, everything starts going crazy. And from there, it's go, 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 go. No time to think, no time to do anything. You're just trying to escape. And then it turns into something completely different, and it honestly didn't even need that second thing, but what that second thing was so awesome that I was so into it, and I honestly could put this much higher on the list, but I said that about a lot of these, so this is very difficult. But I really enjoyed the fucking hell out of this movie. Underwater with Kristen Stewart and TJ Miller. Really, really fucking good movie, and definitely I think almost everyone I've talked to who has seen it did really enjoy it though, so that's good. That's good, because the hate for Kristen Stewart is real, and I feel like a lot of people just ignored it because of that, and fuck, you made a mistake in my opinion. So 24, 22, 23, 22, 21, 20. Okay, so that is 20. I have it all like scratched out and written again. Anyways, all right, so number 19 is definitely one of the most split films of the year, and is going to be, you know, a quote-unquote controversial pick. I'll have a couple of those on here. It's me. Of course I will. But this is a film that's completely split down the middle, and that typically would be a film that would be higher on my list, because I love films that split audiences straight down the middle, because they try something different, or maybe it doesn't go the way they want it to, and, you know, whatever. And this also stars, you know, probably my biggest crush at the moment. I know I get a new one like every month, but Allison Brie, and we got a great cast here, and that is, of course, The Rental, written and directed by Dave Franco, James Franco's brother. So yeah, I I really enjoy the shit out of this one. It all works for me. I think the setup of everybody, I'm very connected with the characters, even if everyone's like, oh, these are all pieces of shit. Guys, I hate to break it to you. I know you think you're a saint, but these are just real people that make bad decisions. People, I love when people try to watch movies like this and they're like, oh, these characters are just so unlikable. And it's like, oh man, you must think you're a fucking peach. You must just think you're a peach. But I can guarantee you, if they put the real you on camera in front of an audience, there'd be so many people in there that'd be like, God, I can't fucking stand this person. If they really showed your real life, not the shit you show to people, but what you're doing behind closed doors, you're not a fucking saint. So let's all stop pretending that we are. Anyways, I just find that funny. That's like one of the biggest complaints I saw about The Rental. Oh, they're all so unlikable. God, they're so despicable. They're so this and that. Really? I just don't see it. Like, yeah, did they make poor decisions? Sure. Doesn't everybody? Anyway, really bought into it. Really bought into the creepiness, the tension, and it is essentially this year's open house for me. I know almost everybody hated that movie, but I think there's a ton of similarities between the two. And I'm like one of the only people on earth that loved The Open House. So, yeah, The Rental. I feel like if you loved The Open House, you'll definitely love The Rental. I would be very surprised otherwise. All right, 18 is a film that I just threw on the list because I saw it was not on here and was like, why the fuck is this not on here? This is a great film. And that is the movie Don't Listen. This movie has some shocking twists and turns, man. Two of them for sure that are just like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. Holy shit, I can't believe that happened. And the ending is a total gut punch. This is a downer of a film for sure. Definitely does not go in the ways you think it's going to go, because the first like 15, 20 minutes or so is very generic, and then it just like, boom, takes this drastic turn, and I'm like, damn, this is a dark movie. This has taken me in places I wasn't expecting to go, and all for the better. Very, very cool flick. It is not an English film, English language film, so I know that can turn some people off, but I think it's great and totally worth a watch. It's like a haunted house possession type of film, but it does not play out like your typical one. So yeah. Anyway, all right, number 17 is a film that came out all the way back in like January or February, and everyone slept on it. No one was talking about it. I just happened upon it because somebody made a list with like overlooked films of 2020, and they were 1,000% right. And that is Feedback. Feedback. Yeah. So there's this like radio disc jockey kind of guy. He's like a talk show, radio talk show host kind of thing, and he's fucking up in his career. And then these guys come in and they try to get him to admit to something with him and his friends, and they hold him hostage essentially. And he's sitting there. And this is more of a thriller for sure. This would be one of those ones where I could see people being like, that's not a horror movie. So here's like the very, very first, is this really horror? I guess after midnight maybe. But I definitely think this is horror enough. It's thriller enough for sure. Being held hostage. It's almost like a home invasion movie, except for it's a work invasion movie. So... and just kind of having your secrets exposed and your whole life torn apart, that's very horrific to me. So I'm counting it. The performances in this are excellent. You got Richard Brake in here. You've got some very familiar faces. But yeah, it's a great film and completely slept on this year for sure. Almost no one talking about this one. That's for sure. All right. Next up, number 16. This is going to be one where I'm going to lose a lot of you. And that's okay. Because it's my list, it's my opinion. This is a film I watched very recently. And almost everyone I've talked to didn't like the movie. There's been a few of you who have and are with me 100%. And I'm very thankful for that because I like connecting with people and agreeing with them on certain things that, we feel like we're the odd men out and we're very proud of it. And that is The Empty Man. This is a film I feel like was extremely misunderstood. This is yet another like Babadook syndrome type of film where they're expecting this creature feature monster movie. I need to stop calling them creature features because I think creature features are more like animal movies, and then this is more like a monster movie. But I think that either A, they were thinking it's going to be another Bye Bye Man, Slender Man, Tarantula Man. I can understand why. But also, I think that this is probably sold like a monster movie. But as I had said in my review of it, this reminds me of something more like a Mothman Prophecies, where it's more like psychologically driven, and that the monster is very seldomly shown almost at all. And then it kind of starts taking on a different path, and where it takes like almost a different plot onto itself, dealing with like a cult. And I think that threw people because they were like, what is this? I want a monster. What is this shit? It worked for me 1,000%. I think the atmosphere is fucking excellent. I think the performance from our lead here is great. I just really enjoyed this and I couldn't keep it off the list. I thought it was a totally overlooked movie from this year, or as people would say, underrated. But so many people hate it that it's not underrated. It's rated exactly how it should be because so many people hated it and so many people would hate it. But in my opinion, it's not anywhere near as bad. In fact, I think it's great. So there you go. All right. So the last second edition, because I noticed it wasn't on the list and I was like, how is that possible? I love this fucking movie. The only reason it's not higher is because the film is very simple. There's like almost no storyline. In fact, the storyline is something we're extremely familiar with because it is a take on a classic fairy tales, if you will. And that, of course, is Oz Perkins, Gretel, and Hansel. This film is just an aesthetic masterpiece. I think that this is quite possibly the best looking film of 2020. If I had to give awards out, I would say this is, the cinematography, the look of this film is probably my favorite of the year. And it was that and the creepiness, the atmosphere that's created by the cinematography that just took this over the hump for me. When I was watching it, I was just like, God, I love this. God, I love looking at this movie. Yes, the rewatchability of this film is lower. That's why it's not higher on the list here. because yeah, it's just like when I went back to rewatch it, I'm like, oh god, it's so simple. There's not really anything to grab onto. It's all style over substance, which isn't a horrible thing, but it does make the rewatchability not as great. So this is yet another one of those films like I feel like I could throw on in the background of like a cool dinner party with other horror fans and just have that on the screen being beautiful in the background. Because man, and Sophia Lillis of course is great. Everyone's great in the movie. It's just there's not really anything going on here as far as a plot goes. They keep it to kind of the original story, which is very simplistic, and it's just it focuses very much on the atmosphere and the aesthetics, which worked for me absolutely. All right, number 14, a film I saw way before almost anybody, and that is Possessor. This is a great film. I want to rewatch it badly to kind of get my real strong opinion on it. But for right now, I kind of put it right and around in the middle area because I didn't really know where to put it. And I was like, man, I haven't seen this in so long, and my memory of it is pretty good, but I feel like a second viewing could really bring this thing up. So as soon as I can get my hands on a copy of it again, I could watch it right now for sure. It's just I'm trying to knock everything out. But yeah, Cronenberg's son brings it. A really cool film for him. I know he made like Antiviral before this, but I think this is his sophomore effort. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this is a very, very, very fucking good sophomore effort. So, you know, kudos to him. And I look forward to rewatching it to see where it really places. But for now, it's number 14. All right, number 13 is a Netflix film. And it is another foreign film. A lot of foreign films on this list, of course. And that is The Platform. This, of course, is really just a political commentary or social commentary, if you will, on the upper class and, you know, kind of the wealth distribution or the resource distribution amongst us. Like we're basically fighting over scraps. The higher ups get, you know, first servings and all of everything they can possibly eat so they can engorge themselves. And then once, you know, it comes down the social levels, when we get it, it's basically like there's nothing left and we have to fight each other for it. But done in a very cool, interesting way. It reminds me of something like Cube or whatnot. And it's a very good film. The ending is very confusing, but I think it's supposed to be, as I said, kind of more metaphorical for you to take what it's supposed to mean, like sending that message to the higher ups, like we're not gonna take it. You know, D. Snyder should have been on the platform. All right, next up, number 12. This is like a dark comedy, almost in the vein of something like Fargo. This is a film I saw maybe a couple months ago. The humor in this is what really landed it for me, and I did like the reveal in the end. But it's all about the character, the main character here, and his interactions with everybody. I found to be hysterical, and there's definitely enough horror in it for it to be a horror movie. But I love this film, and that is The Wolf of Snow Hollow. I had such a fucking good time with this movie. I really, really did. It was a blast for me. And this main guy was just so funny to me. Like when he gets woke up at the library or like that kind of shit. I don't know. It's the way he delivers his lines. It's like awkward, but still so funny. This is definitely my kind of humor. But it's also very serious, and it deals with some heavy stuff. It deals with a man's temper and a disconnection from his daughter and, you know, feeling like a failure in your job and taking on more than you really are prepared for. And there's a lot of real elements in this film that we can empathize with. So I think it's much more deep than people might give it credit for because it is kind of silly. But as is like Fargo, kind of has that same depth. I feel they're very similar, and I know a lot of people didn't like this one or like it can't hold a candle to Fargo. But I think it's a very similar type of film, and I like both a lot. Next up, number 11. This is another divisive film. This is a film that's kind of half and half. But the atmosphere, I'm such an atmosphere whore. This is such a creepy, weird, unsettling film where you don't really know what the fuck is going on the entire time, but in the best kinds of ways, and that is The Beach House, another Shudder movie. Shudder killed it this year. They brought a lot of rad flicks out, and The Beach House was definitely one of them. Actually, let's see. Yeah, it's high. I have a couple more Shudder films, but yeah. So Shudder really killed it. Shudder killed it. I think I have like 4. Looks like 4 Shudder originals. So good on them, man. Good on them. Really great fucking year for Shudder again. So those guys rule. All right, guys. Top 10. Top 10. Let's go. Top 10. All right. Talking about a very bizarre, weird film that has some kinds of social commentary. It's very confusing, but in all the best ways. Great atmosphere. Uber bizarro film. That's gonna. This is another one that's pretty divisive, very split in the community, and that is Vivarium with Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg. Man, I fucking loved this. I thought this was some kind of Twilight Zone type of episode made into a feature-length film, and fuck did I like it. I loved it, to be honest. It's just, it's my kind of bizarre. It's my kind of weird. It's my kind of, atmospheric. This is just, it's such a weird movie. And as I said, in all the best ways. So definitely one that I highly recommend, obviously. And I hope people give it more of a chance, and maybe even a review, because I think like a reviewing, not like to review the movie. I mean, you can do that too, but just watch it again if you watched it and you didn't like it. All right, number 9, a film that really impressed me because it put a woman in a situation that we've put many women in the past in film before in, and they always make dumb decisions. Whether it's one dumb decision or 50, there's always dumb decisions being made. This woman makes, from what I saw, 0 dumb decisions. And that fucking alone, the whole movie was great, to be honest. But her performance and her decision making, that is something in horror that is so severely lacking, is decision making. There's so many times where you're like, oh my God, no one would do that. Or, oh my God, why did they do this? Or whatever. I get so frustrated. Even in films I love, I'll still sit there and be like, ugh. Even in Halloween, my favorite fucking horror movie, I'll sit there and be like, Lori, really? You threw the knife down next to him? Really? Again? Like, you just have to roll your eyes. And this movie is Alone. Yes, Alone. Not hashtag Alive or Alone with... because I think they released 3 movies called Alone in 2020. And hashtag Alive had a remake the same year called Alone. And then there was another one. And I watched 2 of them. I watched this one, obviously, and then I watched the hashtag Alive Alone, and then there was another one. I don't think I watched that one. If I did, I don't remember it, but I know it exists. I just can't remember what it's about. But yeah, I mean, a woman is traveling across, the highway. She's driving a long distance, and she's dealing with a death. And she thinks she's being followed. She thinks she's being stalked. And as I said, every fucking decision this girl makes is perfect. But the writing is just strong enough that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really what she does. And the ending and how it all plays out, oh, mwah, beautiful. Fantastic film. Seriously, so great. Number 8. Here's another thriller kind of film where people argue horror or not horror. I don't care. This is a film with Will Wheaton himself, and that is Rent-A-Pal. And this might have one of my favorite performances of the year. It definitely has one of my favorite performances of the year, but arguably my favorite performance of the year from our lead character here. This poor son of a bitch, man, but he kills this role. This guy who goes and rents, VHS tapes in a dating building, like these old dating VHS tapes that they used to give out, video dating, and then he finds this tape called Rent-A-Pal, There's a guy on there named Andy, played by Will Wheaton, and he's just this dude. And it's actually kind of like based on something. There is a real Rent-A-Pal, so to speak. It's called like Rent-A-Friend or some shit. I watched it on YouTube. Look it up. But there's an actual video made in the 80s, 90s, maybe the 90s, with this guy who did something very similar to this. It's very interesting to watch. And for someone who's lonely like this, he's sitting there and he makes friends with this guy on the tape, and just how it all plays out. It's so sad and tragic, but even relatable. And I got very into that in my review. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, Rent-A-Pal, really cool psychological horror flick. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Number 7, another film that is absolutely going to be considered a thriller, but it's very violent, it's very vicious, and it shocked me at how much I loved it. I fucking adore this film and could watch it multiple times, and is probably my favorite villainous performance of the year, and that is by an extremely overweight, extremely fucking off-kiltered, distraught mind, fucking crazy lunatic, Russell Crowe, and this is Unhinged. Unhinged is a fucking blast of a film. And another film where the lead actress, outside of her decision to talk shit to this guy in traffic and not apologize for it, pretty much every step of the way from there, I can't really come up with a bad decision she makes. Like, she makes every right decision in this film. So yet again, great writing. I never was yelling at the screen like, what the fuck are you doing? Except for when she wouldn't apologize. And I'm like, just fucking apologize. This guy's clearly out of his mind. But there's some kills in this. There's some shit he does that is so shocking that I just did not expect it from this movie. I thought this movie was going to be totally stupid, honestly. And I sat down and I was like, maybe it'll be fun. And I fucking loved it. Loved it. I own it. It's awesome. Thanks to, Guillermo Canales for sending it to me. But I would have bought it myself for sure. All right, number 6. This is another one. This absolutely has plenty of horror in it to me. But at its heart, it's a romantic comedy. Oh, yeah, a romantic comedy. But it has horror all over it to me. And that is probably the most overlooked film of this year. And that film is Spontaneous. This fucking movie rules. This movie fucking rules, man. The connection, the love interest, their chemistry is fantastic. This main character here, the girl played by Catherine Langford, is that her name? Whatever. She's fantastic in this movie. Kind of has like, kind of fucking reminds me a little bit of like a Heathers or something, but man, did I love this film. Did I love just the plot line of just kids randomly exploding and just kind of like, imagine they can't explain it, they can't stop it. It's just a specific group of people, and at any given moment you might just explode and die right there on in the moment. And of course, as I said before, with a lot of these movies, I think there's a lot of symbolisms, metaphors, whatnot to take from it. Life is not fucking, unending. Life is finite. It doesn't go forever, and at any moment you could lose your life, and everything could stop. So you might as well live while you have it. One of those kinds of movies. But I loved, like, I had no idea what this movie was about going into it. So when the first kid exploded, I was shocked. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? But of course, with the title, it should have made sense to me. But just how it played out, it was scary to me. Like, it really was. Like, I was just like, oh my God, like, how would you deal with this situation? So I was dealing with a lot of horror elements in my head. But I was also falling in love with these characters. So really great characters all around. Obviously loved the film. I loved every one of these movies, so I gotta stop saying that, but it's hard not to say. All right, number 5. This was hard. Okay, so we're into the top 5. So this is where I really started moving things around. This was like all of these were all over the place many times. Number 1 has stayed number 1 for a long time, and honestly, number two, I thought for sure was going to be number one. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, fuck it. This is it for sure. This is my movie. But we'll get there. Number five, it's hard to, fuck. But whatever. I agreed to this. Let's go with it. This is a Welcome to the Blumhouse film on Amazon Prime. This was easily the best of the four. This is a film that I blew the fuck out of. It is very similar to like Black Swan, which is another phenomenal film. So if you like that, definitely check this out. And this is called Nocturne. What a fucking fantastic film. Seriously, just for me, this landed in every way. It deals with witchcraft. It deals with jealousy. It deals with, rivalries. It deals with the pressures of being a kid. It deals with, sisters and them kind of fighting for the attention of their parents. That's kind of the rivalry part of it, but also the rivalry of the school that she's in, and just always being second fiddle or second piano to her sister. And even though she's an amazing talent, everyone seems to only be paying attention to her sister. And the performance from the lead is fucking astonishing. I think she is incredible in this film. Like, this one really blew me away. So Nocturne, number five. All right, number four. This is another Shudder film, another foreign film, and that is Metamorphosis. Man, when I watched this, it was my number one. When I had watched it, it was my number one, and I was like, holy shit, I think I found my number one. And then I think the next film, or like maybe two films later, was the next film that I thought was going to be my number one again. It was just like, holy shit, what is going on right now? So yeah, really, really good really good series of movies I watched there at that point in time. But Metamorphosis, this deals with this like entity that can take on the persona of other people and present it in the way that all plays out. And there's a kill in this, a shocking death in this, that might be the most shocking death of the year to me. Just kind of, like a Hereditary kind of shocking to me, where I was like, I can't believe that just happened. That just fucking happened. Like, I was like, is that going to be a dream? Is that going to be? Nope, sure wasn't. One of the main characters just taken out, and you're like, that just happened. Holy shit, that just happened. Dude, I thought this movie, atmospherically, this film is top-notch, perfection. I could not take anything away from this film atmospherically. And just the setups for the scares and just kind of the mind fuck of what's going on and like the rift that it causes between people because they think like, people that they trust are doing horrible things to them, but of course it's not really them. And just like how something could come into your life and fuck you up like this. It reminded me very much of the movie Mimic, which made my top list of maybe 2 years ago. I think that was 2018, which is the best year of horror maybe ever to me. But yeah, Mimic. Ooh, great movie. And so is Metamorphosis. Man, I love this movie. And I owe it a rewatch. In fact, when I was making this list, I ordered the Blu-ray, which will be here on Sunday. So I'm going to rewatch that as soon as I can. All right, top three. And I actually brought out the copies I have of all three here. So number three is a film that is the most fun film I watched all year. Unhinged was close, but this film was pure fucking 80s throwback fun. I cannot recommend this highly enough to people who just love 80s horror, gore, and it's probably got my favorite ensemble cast of the year too. Just all of the familiar faces in this film, and that of course is Joe Begos, VFW. Holy shit, man. The gore in this movie, the kills, the body count, everything about this movie. This is just screaming Jason all over it. This is like a John Carpenter-esque kind of film. Of course, it reminds me a lot of his Assault on Precinct 13, but with fucking gallons of blood and just buckets of gore and great characters, great camaraderie between Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Martin Coe, Fred Williamson, everybody. all the familiar faces, whether it's Dora Madison, of course, she's going to be in his film, but whoever, they're all great. It's played very hammy, but like a great hammy. It's a playful, like it's like bad on purpose, but it's all, you know, it's not. You know what I mean? It's done cheesily, but like a good cheesy, which is very, very hard to accomplish. I think they knock it out of the park. Obviously, my number 3 horror film of 2020. Fantastic. And I actually have 2 copies of it because I still haven't sent out the copy to the winner of my little scavenger hunt. Trivia thing that I did, but I got to get his information to send it to him. So if you're watching, please DM me your address so I can send that out. All right, number 2. This is a film I cannot believe is not number 1. This is as Jason of a film as they made this year, for sure. And the fact that this isn't number 1, this could easily be number 1 for me. It's so shocking to me that it's not number 1, but fuck do I love this movie. This is basically this year's Hereditary or whatever. Anything with family drama, anything that deals with just kind of like people who are on the edge and are dealing with psychosis and are like exposed to the elements and there's isolation and all that stuff. That, of course, is The Lodge. I can't say good enough about this movie. It's perfect to me, basically. Like I can't really find anything wrong with it. I love every second of it. It is the most me film of 2020, but something still beat it. Something still beat it. And there's a reason something beat this. And the reason that this is my number 1 is because this is the most well-rounded film of 2020 to me. This has everything in it. This has horror. This has comedy. This has action. This has romance. This has drama. This has politics. This has monsters. This has every fucking thing. This has characters I love. This has great situations. The production value, the ambitiousness of it, all of it is fucking phenomenal. And it reminds me of one of my favorite shows of recent memory, a show called Kingdom. So if you haven't seen Kingdom, please watch Kingdom. But when I saw this movie, I even said about 45 minutes of the way into it, I remember, I just looked it up on Facebook. I wrote about 45 minutes of the way into it. I said, if this isn't my number 1 movie of the year, I'll be shocked. Because I love it that much. And that is, number 1, Monstrum. Now, I would have the Blu-ray, but Guillermo Canales sent me a copy of it. It does come on Blu-ray. I would prefer it on Blu-ray, but that's okay. I got it for free. I can't complain. But that's why I have the DVD and not the Blu-ray. But Monstrum, I even threw it on for like a half an hour before while I was making this list just to reconfirm. And when all the characters came back on the screen and I just kind of remembered all of my love for them and all my love for where this all went and how this played out and just kind of like, you know, the story and just everything about it. How funny it is, how heartfelt it is, how invested in characters I am, how big this movie feels. Everything about it. It's fucking perfect. It's my favorite film of 2020, for sure. So it was hard to make this list, but number 1 never changed. Ever since the day I watched it, it stayed at number 1 and nothing could dethrone it. And when I watched The Lodge, I was convinced without a shadow of a doubt nothing was going to beat it. And within 45 minutes of this movie, I was like, I'm going to like this more than The Lodge. I can already tell. This is my kind of movie. In addition, like, The Lodge is definitely, like, as I said, the most me kind of movie. But this one just won me over. Kingdom helped with that. I had never watched anything like that, a period piece, you know, swords versus monsters and all this stuff. Set in like the 1500s, 1600s, South Korean dynasties and all that stuff. But man, what an incredible film. So there you go, guys. It was a crazy year, right? 2020. What an insane year this was in so many ways. So many deaths, so many different things being thrown at us right and left, and so many movies delayed, so many movies pushed, so many TV series pushed. but holy shit, is 2021 going to be the most stacked year ever because of it. So whatever we didn't get in 2020, we're getting in 2021. And what mostly we were getting in 2021, we're still getting in 2021. And with all this news of like HBO Max and the partnership with them and Warner Brothers, and shit's changing, man, with Disney Plus doing like 10 different MCU properties this year, and all these, 11 fucking Star Wars shows and movies announced, and we have content forever. We are so spoiled and we don't even know it. And even without all the studio releases and the big releases, we still had a stellar year, in my opinion, with so many great titles to choose from. Even the top 25 was hard to make, but there you go. Obviously, I recommend all 25, 26 technically, with the fear footage. And then there's 10 films to completely avoid at all costs. So it was a good year, guys. 150 movies. As always, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thanks for hanging out. I know I ramble. I know I don't get to the list quick enough. I know I put movies on here that people wouldn't consider right for a horror list and all that. But the people who love me and love this channel, they're having a good time. They understand how this works. And they'll be the people that are still here right now. So I love you guys. Everyone who's still here right now, you know who you are. I know who you are, should I say. Of course you know who you are. But I know who most of you are. Like, I could name names right now, but I'm not going to play favorites because I can't name y'all. But there's a good fucking amount of you, and you guys really make this channel what it is. Because I wouldn't do it without you guys. I really wouldn't. I don't have enough subscribers. I don't make enough money. And trust me, when I tell you I'm putting in a lot of fucking time. How many I did 11 reviews in a row yesterday. 11 for 2.5 straight hours. And tonight, here I am again for almost an hour and a half. Hour and 45 minutes, somewhere in that area, recording again. I do it for you guys, the ones that are still here, the ones who aren't bitching about that I put a thriller on here and that I talked too long in the opening and I told personal stories and I ramble. You guys are the shit, man. You genuinely are. Here's to 2021, a killer year. We're gonna have so much fun. We're gonna talk about so many fucking movies and TV series and video games and all sorts of shit. And of course, as always, personal stories, things I probably shouldn't be telling you, but they're fun and we have a good time. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. I'm sure I'll see you before then, but anyways, doesn't matter. The end of 2020. Fucking go away, 2020. You had some killer movies, though. You really did. Thank you to all of you. Adios.